What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Sports Scoop and welcome in to another 2023 NFL mock draft. This might actually be my first one, but today we're doing a 2-round mock draft. We may have some trades in there. Super excited to get into this one. Obviously, it's been, we're getting to the draft. I think we have 6 days until the draft. It's this right now as I record. It's Saturday. It's this Thursday, so it's close. We're getting there. A 2023 NFL Draft live stream here on this channel on YouTube the day of the first round, starting around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. We will be going live on the channel to do some pre-draft coverage, and then we will be live for the full, all 31 picks, not 32, of the first round. So do make sure you guys stop in. We're super excited to get into that, but before we do that, let me quickly lower my blind so my face is not flushed out. But we're super excited. Obviously, 2-round mock draft today. I haven't done a 2-rounder. I don't even know. We've been doing this channel for a while. I haven't done a full 2-rounder. The picks in the first round might be a little quicker. I honestly think the second round is arguably more interesting than the first round, just because that's where you get the real steals. Even the third round, for this. But as always, make sure you guys comment down below what picks you have, who you would like me to draft for your team. But first, overall, it is the Carolina Panthers. Let's quickly start the draft. Get it up here. The first pick will be Bryce Young to Carolina. I just think for me, I think that pick is just inevitable. It's what's circulating. I think that's the pick that'll happen. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I just think that'll be the pick for Carolina. Obviously, you get Bryce Young, field general. Obviously, the size is always a question mark. But again, obviously, they did the I forgot, it was the IQ score. I forgot the exact name for it. It basically tests your processing ability. Bryce Young scored a 98 or 99, higher than Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Hurts. So he scored fantastic. And then as well, Anthony Richardson scored very well, and Will Levis scored very well. So that's where I'm at here. But we'll look here. We might look to make a trade, but I'm not gonna here. I think the Texans will stay. I think DeMeco Ryans gonna want to get his edge, and he will get him there with Will Anderson out of, obviously, another Alabama guy, 2 Alabama guys going off the board. Obviously, Will Anderson, generational edge. If you guys didn't see our podcast, we posted a couple days ago. We did our top 5 edge rushers. We talked about Will Anderson, so make sure you guys go check that out. Again, a guy who's a blue chip prospect. This dude, the production he had in college is next to no one. That is a home run pick. Even at 2, which people might think, oh, why would you stick there and go 2? Like, let a team trade up to go and get their quarterback. But I think for the Texans, you don't wait, you don't trade down, you don't risk it. You go and get Will Anderson, because I think if Will Anderson was here, I think the Cardinals would have taken him. They will not. And this is interesting for me for Arizona. I think that they'll take the shot on Tyree Wilson, if not a corner like Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois. But I think they take the shot on Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. Another guy who I'm not super high on. I actually have Nolan Smith out of Georgia ahead of him. But I'm kind of in this mock going to do what I think will happen, and I guess kind of trying to get the fit right. So that's what I like there for Carolina, or excuse me, not for Carolina, for the Cardinals. I think it's a pick that just makes a bunch of sense. So that's what I'll do there. Excuse me, I went back by accidentally. Let me quickly. So that's what the pick will be. So I really, really like the pick there. Next, we have the Colts. And if I'm the Colts, I'm going Stroud out of Ohio State. Again, a guy who is starting to fall a little bit. And again, I don't really understand it. I think C.J. Stroud's a great quarterback. Again, I have actually Anthony Richardson graded ahead of him. I think the Colts will take the shot on C.J. Stroud, though. I think he fits the system a little better. The whole thing with the Anthony Richardson hype and the Will Levis to the Colts is, one, Will Levis, I think, would fit the scheme as well. And then Anthony Richardson, as you have Shane Steichen there, we saw what he did with Jalen Hurts. So it's, oh, let's go get Anthony Richardson. We can make him into a fantastic prospect. I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll stick to their rankings. And again, they may have Will Levis ahead. They might have Anthony Richardson ahead, and they'll go and get CJ Stroud. But I would not be surprised if Will Levis is taken or Anthony Richardson is taken before CJ Stroud, because again, I think it's honestly realistic for Will Levis to even go at 2 to Houston, but that does not end up happening here. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks, who I think really, really like Anthony Richardson, but I don't think they'll do that. I think that they will either look to trade down, or I like Peter Skoronski. I saw this mock the other day out of Northwestern. I just loved that. I just really, really liked that pick when I saw it on another mock draft. Again, a guy who is so well, I think translates more. I think I scouted him on my own. I don't have him in my tackle rankings. I scouted him as an interior offensive lineman, just athletic, freakish. I think this guy is a generational guy in the interior of the offensive line, which I've seen a lot of people saying like he is a can't miss prospect. They obviously, they had 2 rookie starting tackles last year, Charles Cross and I'm forgetting his name, out of Washington State, who both were fantastic. So they'll go and they'll, get Skoronski. I wouldn't be surprised if they go another interior at the back end of this draft, but I'll show you who was drafted here. I'm not sure why it's going away so quickly. There it is. Then we have the Lions at 1-6. And they'll go Jalen Carter out of Georgia. Again, a guy who I, could see slipping on draft day. I don't think he'll fall past the Cardinals, or excuse me, the Falcons. I think it would be, very, very unintelligent if he fell past Falcons. So I think the Lions go and take a shot on him there at they take a shot there at 6 for him. Again, a guy who is arguably the most disruptive player in the interior defensive line, for the past 2 years. Fantastic at Georgia, was a standout on a Georgia defensive line that's been pumping out prospects day in, day out. You pair him up with Anthony Hutchinson, Aiden Hutchinson, who they got last year. And, you have a young, good defensive core. Obviously, you'll look to add a corner, I would say, at 18 to, improve the back end of your defense. Now we have the Raiders. I think this is where the first corner goes off the board. If I'm the Raiders, I'm taking Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois over Christian Gonzalez. You get a lockdown island corner who instincts are fantastic. His route squeeze is so good, being able to understand cuts and close the gap between him and the receiver, which I value so much. He's my corner 1. That being said, I think on draft day, I wouldn't be surprised if Gonzalez actually is the player taken there to Las Vegas. A lot of people are saying Anthony Richardson. I don't love that. I think they go and get Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. Obviously a guy who had 2 all right years at Colorado, transferred to Oregon and had arguably his best game of the season against Colorado. So again, that's a guy, or excuse me, my mind is not working. They didn't take Christian Gonzalez. They take Devon Witherspoon. That's the pick there. So I really, really like it. I just think Devon Witherspoon, to me, makes a lot of sense there. Then we have the Atlanta Falcons at 1.8. How good would that be if they went and took Gonzalez? This is a tough one for me. It's a tough one. I think if he's here, they'll go Will Levis out of Kentucky, a guy who I don't think will fall that far. I think he will be taken pretty early. So that's what I'm gonna look at there, just because I think they don't have a guy I necessarily like. If they were to take Anthony Richardson there, I don't love the players he would sit behind, like Desmond Ridder. Maybe I don't really like Desmond Ridder. I don't think it would be realistic, right? Like, he's not going to learn much under Desmond Ridder. Whereas Will Levis can contend for the starting job, and I think would win the starting job. So obviously Will Levis is more of a day 1 starter. They go and get a guy who is arguably the best at reading defenses, at least when I was scouting him this past year out of Kentucky. A guy who performed, and Kentucky were very bad this year. Obviously that reflected in his stats a little, but that's where I go with. Then we have the Chicago Bears. I'm going to start to, speed up the picks a little bit. Chicago Bears here at 1.9. This is a tough one. I can see a trade down. Do you improve that secondary? Oof, this is a tough one. I think they will go. It's a tough one. You can see who we've drafted. I think they'll go Paris Johnson. I think you improve the offensive line. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. We'll see what they need. We'll go to Chicago. Where is he? Complete. Here we go. Yeah. So I think tackle's a need, and they go and get Paris Johnson. So I like the pick. That's yeah. So that's where I'll go with for the Eagles now. Obviously, they have 110, and then just going back to Paris Johnson quickly. I'm tripping over my words. Paris Johnson, a guy who I think if you were to build an offensive tackle in a lab, that's the guy you would build. 315 pounds, 6'6", super fluid, really good hips, mirrors edges fantastically. And in that division, obviously, where you have some good edge rushers, if the Lions go and get Jalen Carter, you have Aiden Hutchinson, having a tackle to protect Justin Fields, who is getting hit around this year. I think that is sad. That's the pick there. Excuse me. 1 second. Feedback. Sorry about that. I don't know why that happened. The camera just switched. I don't know. That might disconnect here. Next on. I don't know why. Sorry. Is happening. I don't know why that keeps happening. I'm going to get very, very annoyed. I don't know why that keeps happening. We'll continue on here with the Eagles at 110. We'll resume the draft. This is a tough one for me just because there are, this could be a trade down situation. I really want to see, actually, I'm going to pause it actually so we don't have this clock. I want to see actually what a team need is for the Eagles. Like, what do they list as a team need for them? Team needs, for the Eagles, corner. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Gonzalez is there. I think that's a home run pick. If he falls down to 10, I think you go and get Gonzalez out of Oregon. Again, physically wise, I think physically wise, it makes a ton of sense for the Eagles to go and get him. Obviously, you lose. Excuse me, they didn't actually lose. I was going to say they lost Darius Slay. They didn't. But you go and get Christian Gonzalez. You re-sign James Bradbury. I'm not sure why it's not letting me make the pick here. I don't know why. There we go. I think it's because I had the draft pause, but there we go. I don't know. There's a ton of I'm very sorry. There's a ton of technical difficulties, but that's the pick I like there. For the Eagles, we'll go Tennessee here at 111. I think this is a home run pick if he falls. Anthony Richardson from Florida, a pick I think that makes so much sense. He sits behind Ryan Tannehill. You let Ryan Tannehill kind of run out his contract there, obviously, and then you have Anthony Richardson. Obviously, I know they drafted Malik Willis, who I loved, but I think Anthony Richardson, to me, you look at raw quarterbacks, which we saw a lot of in the last year's class, he's so much ahead of a guy like Malik Willis, physically just bigger, stronger, faster. Maybe not actually faster. Malik Willis is very, very good mobily, but they go and take another quarterback. I think it makes a lot of sense. You're looking at a franchise that really has been incredibly competitive. Besides last year, you have Derrick Henry there. That would be a very, very good rushing attack if you can get Derrick Henry. If you can keep Derrick Henry with Will Anderson there. Then we have the Houston Texans, and let's see who we took at who do we had them at? We took Will Anderson, so we go another edge. There's tackles here. Corner might be a need. This is a tough one. Let's look at the corners that are still left. You have Joey Porter, Brents. I don't like Joey Porter at 12. Inside defensive line, Brian Breesy is there. There's, the tackles are still there. So I think that's a tough one. I think we'll go Broderick Jones from Georgia. That actually might be a trade down scenario. Let's see what they have listed for team needs for Houston. But again, Broderick Jones is another guy who's super fluid, really, really high ceiling. That's what I think separates him. Let's see where I, for the love of me, cannot find the team whenever I want to find them. Yeah, so quarterback was a need, obviously, but there was no guys we would have loved there. And then we go and hit on an offensive tackle need. So I like the pick there. We could go receiver. I think it's a little early at 12 for any of the receivers. Then we have the Jets, who will be, really that Broderick Jones was taken there. I don't know why it's not letting me go back to the Jets. Could go a lot of different ways here. Could go corner. I don't think corner is necessarily a need. I think kind of its defensive line is a need. I actually would really like Kalijah Kancey. I know it's early here for him to go off the board, but a guy who is obviously small, but when was the last time we saw a small defensive tackle come out of Pitt and be really good? Aaron Donald. So Kalijah Kancey, I'm not saying that he will be Aaron Donald, but I really, really like the fit there for the Jets. It's a low-key need is kind of what I like to say. So that's going to be my pick for them. I'm not sure why it's not letting me switch back to I don't know why it's not letting me switch back, but we'll go with the Patriots here. We're just going to have to look at what they need. New England's a tough one. I think receivers a need. You look at, maybe they like quarterback. Maybe there's a corner they like. There's obviously inside defensive line. I don't think they'll reach on any of them. There are some edges here. I think that they would go Myles Murphy here out of this thing is bugging out. Out of Clemson. A pick I really like for the Patriots. I think when you look at again, we'll look at the team needs here. Inside defensive line, edge need. I think when you look at I'm not a fan of Myles Murphy. I love the upside, so I'd say, bring him to a defense that could, give him the, potentially, give him that upside. Obviously, help him get there. No one better to do than Bill Belichick. So I like the pick, but I'm just not, a massive fan of the player. We sit here with the Packers. I think this is where the first receiver off the board will be a guy who I'm not a huge fan of, but I think a lot of people do like. That's Jackson Smith and Jigba. We'll just recap the draft so far so you can see what we have. But Njigba goes off to and we'll actually set it here so you guys can see. And on the clock right now we have the Washington Commanders. But again, Jackson Smith and Jigba, super low floor, or super high floor, not a super high ceiling. I just don't love the pick. I don't really like Njigba that much. I think he doesn't offer a bunch. So I'm not a huge fan. Then the Commanders, I think corner is the pick here. And I think if he's here, they'll go Joey Porter. The Steelers now are sitting in a very bad spot. But I think that's where they'll go with this pick. Obviously, the Commanders really, really need a cornerback. I think the ideal situation is you see a guy like maybe Witherspoon and Gonzalez fall down to 16, but I don't think that will actually happen. Super deep corner class, so I don't think the Steelers are very upset about that, but that's where I'll go with for Washington. There's no tackles I love here for Pittsburgh, so I'm going to go with Deonte Banks, who I think is fantastic out of Maryland. Ideal size. Like this dude, if you were to build a corner in a lab, it's Deonte Banks, 6 feet, 200 pounds, super solid, really, really fluid guy. The athleticism to me screams. I think Deonte Banks could become a fantastic corner at the next level. So I really, really like the pick there. I think that's a very fine pick. I actually like him more than Joey Porter. So that's where I'll go with for Pittsburgh. Then you have Detroit again. And for we took obviously Jalen Carter. I think they'll stick defense. I think they'll stick corner. And I don't think this is a reach to go and get Clark Phillips out of Utah. I am a huge fan of Clark Phillips. I think receiver now with this stuff happening with Jameson Williams might be a need. I would love Quentin Johnson, actually. I think that's where I'll go. Thing I've not seen mocked a bunch, but I think Quentin Johnson, to me, is my wide receiver one. I think why not go get him? Obviously, you have Jameson Williams, you have Amon-Ra, DJ Chark, I believe, was on a 1-year deal. I'm not sure actually if DJ Chark is still there or not. But Quentin Johnson gives you a true, jump ball receiver, 6'2", or 6'3", fantastic, really, really good after the catch for his size. So I like the pick there. Again, you just stack that receiver room. You really, really turn Detroit into a contender. So I'm a fan of the pick there. Again, a pick you don't see much of. And now you have Tampa Bay. This is a pick, honestly, where I could see Hendon Hooker coming off the board. But I actually like that. I'm going to do that. Hendon Hooker will take. That's a hot take. I think a lot of people might not like that pick, but that's where I'm going to go. I think To me, Hendon Hooker, I really, really like him. I don't think there's, if this guy was younger, not did not just tear his ACL, I would like to pick a lot more. Excuse me, I don't know why this keeps happening. You have to bear with me. I don't know why we're having some technical issues there. Then we have obviously Seattle here at 120. This is another interesting one. We'll look Seattle, we took Skoronski. You could go another interior offensive line, go for a guy like John Michael Schmitz. Osiris Torrance is here. I mean, that offensive line would be set if you went and took a guy like Osiris Torrance. But edge is kind of in need. And you have guys like Lucas Van Ness. I think that's where they'll go. I think they'll go Lucas Van Ness. Let's actually just look at what they have listed as team need. What just happened? There's some weird space in between picks. Let's look at actually what the team they have listed for the team needs for Seattle, because I'm interested to see where edge is there. Let me look. For the life of me, whenever I look at this, cannot find the team I want to. Where is the Seahawks? I bet you guys see it, and I'm just freaking blind. Here we go. Oh, it's by division. Okay, that makes it freaking duh. Oh yeah, edge is a number one need. I'm sorry, you guys have to bear with me. I am some reason off today, but really good. Van Ness, super powerful. A guy who obviously the question mark and the thing why I don't have him super high, I think he's my edge 6, is because of that lack of experience. Was a redshirt sophomore at Iowa. But it's undeniable when this guy's on the field and when he was playing for Iowa, he was dominant. So I like the pick. I think you get a guy who has a super high ceiling. Kind of reminds me of like a Joey Bosa type guy. So powerful, really good at translating speed to power. So I like the pick there. Then we see the Chargers. If I'm the Chargers, I'm just stacking this offense. I think this is where Bijan Robinson goes off the board. I love that pick. Bijan Robinson, I think, is the closest guy we've seen since Saquon, or the best running back we've seen since Saquon Barkley. A guy who really has it all. He's the best receiving back I've ever scouted. I've been scouting the draft for about 4 years. And this guy, to me, it could be in the slot as a receiver and be super productive. So I think that pick works very well there. We have Baltimore at the 23rd overall pick. This is a tougher one for me. I want to see what they have as a team need for Baltimore. I'm wondering what they think. So corner, right? They're not. I would actually really like Clark Phillips. That's actually what I'll. But you have Cam Smith. I'm gonna go Clark Phillips out of Utah, a guy who I love. Really reminds me kind of a Denzel Ward type guy. Like his instinct and ability to route squeeze, the receiver hits the break, the ability to close that space. To me, Clark Phillips has arguably one of the best in the class. I think that's a fantastic pick. A lot of people say that's too early. I think I wouldn't be surprised if this guy did fall to the second round. I'm actually interested to see where teams have him graded and what they think that his value is. So that's what I think. I really like Clark Phillips. He just seems to me like a Raven. Like I think he would be a great Raven, a guy who talks, physical corner, even though he's 5'10". I just really like the pick there. Clark Phillips to me, I think could translate super well. But again, a guy who I don't want to see confined to a slot role. Like I think he's an outside corner, which we'll see at the next level. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings. Again, we'll see what their team needs. I just want to see what this has them listed as their team needs. The Vikings have receiver as a need, right? Obviously, you lost Adam Thielen. Yeah, that would be a hell of a pick. You go and get a guy like Jordan Addison. Yeah, Zay Flowers, I think, could give them a lot. I think Josh Downs, I think Cedric Tillman's a good pick. I'm going to go Jordan Addison, and I hate that because I'm a Giants fan, seeing him taken before we can go and get him. But to me, you get Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, who to me reminds me a lot of Stephon Diggs. Like that's your Stephon Diggs replacement there. If you're Minnesota, Jordan Addison reminds me so much of him. Like not elite down the field, not elite, like he's not like super fast. He's not super big, but what he is the best at is that separation aspect of the game. So I think that's what the Vikings will do there. Obviously, you lose Thielen to the Panthers, so I like the pick. Quickly gonna raise my headrest a little bit. That's what I like. I like the pick there. Then we have the Jaguars at 25. I'm not sure here. The Jaguars could go edge, right? I think offensive line's a need. Tackle, Dewan Jones, I don't love. I'm actually gonna go Anton Harrison. Oh my god, I forgot Darnell Wright's here. I would have gone Darnell Wright very, very early. Yeah, I should have taken him much earlier. Yeah, well, that's one we can't get back. Damn it. I still like Anton Harrison, a guy who I really think is the Charles Cross of this year. His cup of tea is in that pass protection, super good fluid hips, really good step back, good power, good. The hips, I think, are a little tight. He does get beat on the inside, but I really like the pick of Anton Harrison. I would have gone Darnell right there, but that's where I'm going to go with. But I want to see actually for the Giants. I know we're set. Oh, yeah, we're set on tackles. They're not going to take Darnell Wright. But honestly, I think if they're a guy like, look, we're going to put you on the inside, I just think that would make that offensive line fantastic. It's just not going to be a need, though. So I just don't think it's realistic. I think for the Giants, we need to go receiver. I just think that's where we need to go if we're New York. And I would go with Zay Flowers in an instant, but I just think we need a bigger guy. That's where I would have loved to see Quentin Johnston fall. I think Cedric Tillman wouldn't be a huge reach here. I think Cedric Tillman's very, very good. I'm actually going to do that for my Giants. I think it's a reach. Like, that's 100% a reach pick, but Cedric Tillman has arguably the best hands in the class. Obviously, was injured this year, but had the first, I think, 1,000-yard season by a Tennessee receiver last year. So that's where I'll go with. I like the pick. I just think it's got to be a receiver, and I just don't think it's worth it to go. I really like Zay Flowers. I have him as my wide receiver too, but I think the Giants need a big-bodied receiver to kind of replace what Kenny Golladay just wasn't for us. So that's where I'll go with. Now we have the Cowboys on the clock. They may look receiver here. You could go offensive line. Let's see what a team need actually is for Dallas, because I'm actually interested, because I'm wondering. Let's see. Team needs inside defensive line. There's some good ones. You have Mozzie Smith here. That's actually might be where I lean. That's actually what I'm going to do. Mozzie Smith out of Michigan, really good run stopper. I think that makes sense. I think that's the thing. You could see maybe they go corner, but you just got Stephon Gilmore. Maybe they go Brian Branch. That's a tough one for me. Speaking of Brian Branch, that's actually where I'll go here for Buffalo. Massive fan of Brian Branch, a guy who a lot of people think will translate to like kind of a slot corner at the next level, but a guy who's very versatile around the back end of that defense. So I think that offers a bunch. Obviously, you have two older safeties in Micah Hyde and Poyer. So it's a tougher one for me, just because I think maybe they look receiver, maybe they look offensive line. I think tackle. I think it'll either be tackle or safety. But Brian Branch, the versatility he gives, plays with so much power, such a huge hitter. So I like it there. Then you have the Bengals. Obviously, a lost safety. They would have loved. I think Brian Branch would have been a home run pick there for them. Maybe they go cornerback, right? Obviously, offensive line. Oh yeah, offensive line still is a need. Excuse me, a guy who I just was complaining about not picking. This is a home run pick and a half. They get Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, a guy who really reminds me a lot of Trent Williams. Like, and again, I think people take comps too far sometimes, but a guy who obviously doesn't have as much of the size, but perfect. I think he's 6'6", 330. Really, really mean, powerful, aggressive tackle that I think offers so much in the pass game. Run game could improve a little bit just at the second level, but I love that pick. You're looking at a guy who could be an all-pro tackle throughout his career. I think that's a home run selection at 29 to me. Again, a guy who is only there just because the rankings here, I didn't actually see him. Then we have the Saints here. I could see them go Steve Avila out of TCU, a guy who they have ranked very low. Let's see what they have as a team need for New Orleans. I'm thinking it's going to be interior offensive line. So edge is a need. So maybe you go Nolan Smith. There are still some good edges. Derek Hall's there. Will McDonald's there. I think I'll go Nolan Smith out of Georgia. A guy who I actually like a lot more than the status quo of him. I have him as my edge 2, actually ahead of Tyree Wilson, who we had go at 3 to Arizona. I I just think Nolan Smith to me super bendy. I think he's the best run defender, and for a guy of his size, you would look at the size of the defensive ends in this class and not think he is the best one, the best defensive end, or excuse me, the best run defender. So I like the pick there. Then we have the Eagles at 31. It's, again, what are the team needs for this team? I think that they'll kind of just go best available. They already took, I believe, was it Christian? Yeah, they took Christian Gonzalez with that first pick. We're gonna look at here, tight end. That would just be unfair if they went. I just noticed I didn't take no tight ends, and I think there will be a run on tight ends in this first round. This is let's just see. Let's just take a gander. I think the team needs always gives you a little bit of perspective. Corner edge is a need. You still have a guy like Will McDonald there. I guess they don't think tight end is a need. Yeah, it's not nowhere near. So we'll look at the edge. Yeah, and you have Will McDonald, who I really like. Enudike Ozama, BJ Ojulari is there. Derek Hall's there. I'm going to go Will McDonald, a guy who's super similar, him and Nolan Smith, to Hassan Reddick, just super bendy edge, a guy who I think could be highly productive. I just don't love, I really like McDonald. I have him as my edge 4. I just think the translation to the NFL might be a little bit of a learning curve for him just because he played in this very weird defensive front for Iowa State. He lined up at defensive tackle, like 3-4 tackle, where this dude's 6'4", skinny, like he's 6'4", 238, I think, or 235. So I don't love, I think there might be a learning curve, but there's no better team to go to than Philadelphia, sit behind them. Now we have the Chiefs. I think this is a tough one. I think you get a receiver here, although Jahmyr Gibbs would be a great pick, but they already have Isaiah Pacheco. They're actually pretty similar players. I'm going to go Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee to end out that first round, a guy who is a game breaker if he can kind of get a little bit of weight on him, which is actually a tall task, not a thing you can kind of just throw around lightly. I really do like the pick. So that's where I'll go with. I just think this guy is a X factor receiver downfield, good size at 6 feet, burner. Like ran a 4.3. Well, oh no, he actually ran a 4.4. His game speed's a lot faster. The 4.4 was surprising. Like he's a guy who's blazing speed. So obviously poor there at the combine. But that wraps up the first round. We'll just recap it there. You guys can see it. We obviously go Bryce Young at 1, and we ended off with Jalen Hyatt. I think that's a good first round. Obviously, there are some, it just shows the talent of this class. Like Zay Flowers is still here. Josh Downs is still here. You look at the edge class, it's still here. You obviously still have Derek Hall, BJ Ojulari, really, really good. We had the run on quarterbacks, but still corners. There's a bunch of good guys here. You still have Cam Smith, Julius Brents there, Keely Ringo. So there definitely are some good players as we get into this second round. All right, let's get into the second round. Steelers here. We had them take Deonte Banks. Offensive line still in need. So I think at the top of the second, DeJuan Jones, I don't think is a huge risk here. He's a guy who, we got to resume the draft. DeJuan Jones at Ohio State. I mean, this dude is, I just don't understand how people get that big. 6'8", 374 pounds. There's no getting through him. So that's a good. But at that size, unfortunately, the question mark is just that lateral mobility. So I think for them, they would have liked a guy more like Paris Johnson or like Broderick Jones. But they'll go get DeJuan Jones. I think it's a great pick. Like he is a mammoth of a player. So I like I think it's a good I don't hate the pick. I think the second round the value's there. I think the first round wasting your first pick of the draft on DeJuan Jones, not wasting but taking DeJuan Jones with your first pick in the draft might be a little bit of a reach. Then we have the Texans who had 2 first. I wish they showed you. I don't know why it doesn't show you who you took for them. So with the Texans, we took Will Anderson, and we took the second time. So Will Anderson and Broderick Jones. Speaking of Broderick Jones, let's look at team needs for the Texans would probably be, really everything. Not sure for the Texans. I'm going to say quarterback. Obviously, still haven't gotten their quarterback. There's no one they're going to take, though. Like, they're not going to take Tanner. There's no, unfortunately, no more guys left. Ooh, receivers in need. So I think they'll go receiver. I think this is where Zay Flowers will finally, I think this is where Zay Flowers will finally go off the board. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, you go get Zay Flowers, you obviously have, yeah, they just don't, I mean, I think the value's there. I think that makes a bunch of sense. So I'm going to go Zay Flowers there. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think Zay Flowers obviously offers a bunch. I'm just, I'm doing this mock live with you guys, so I'm thinking of the picks. So I like that there. And we have the Cardinals at 235. We took Tyree Wilson. Corner's now a need. This might be where I take Cam Smith. I think that's what I'll do. Let me just make sure. Cam Smith to me makes sense. Ideal size, a little small. Yeah. Cam Smith's going to be the pick there. We'll just move down so you guys can see to the second round. Cam Smith, I think that's really good value. A guy who I think could go in the first round. Super deep corner class, but a guy I think who offers a lot. Really good fluid, really good at mirroring corners downfield. You look at his game. I'm not sure I think it was against Clemson, I believe. A guy who I think offers a bunch, like could be a very solid corner, could be a really high-end cornerback too. So I'm a fan of the pick there. Then we have the Colts up. Obviously, first round, they went and took CJ Stroud. Do you get a receiver to kind of to complement it? I actually would love Josh Downs out of North Carolina. I think is a home run selection there. A guy who is weirdly small, 5'9", but one of the best at contested catches. I think he would complement Michael Pittman super well. So I like that pick. You got CJ Stroud, you have Michael Pittman, you obviously have Taylor in the backfield, and you go and get Josh Downs, a guy who is super effective in the red zone, really good red zone route runner. So I like the pick here. Now we have the Rams with their first pick of the NFL draft so far. Let's see what a team need for the Rams here is. Offensive tackles in need. Go Bergeron, corners in need. We got guys there. Edge. I think edge might be more realistic. I think this is where Derek Hall will finally go off the board. Obviously, they lost Von Miller last offseason to Buffalo. They had a team that honestly fell apart after that Super Bowl win. Derek Hall, I really like. I think this guy's arguably a first-round prospect. TDN has him arguably as a first-round prospect as well. Just a guy who offers so much in terms of length, arm length. Him and Will Anderson, and this is always good because we love Will Anderson, are the exact same build. I believe they're 6'3". Will Anderson, I think, is 6'3.5", 245 and 34.5-inch arms. So the arm length there to me is great. Like I really like good arm length, and that you can get that first punch. I think Derek Hall value-wise is a great pick. I don't think there's a tackle I would like. You look at the tackles here. I don't like Bergeron. So I don't love Tyler Steen maybe. That's where we'll go. Then we have the Seahawks again with their third pick of the draft. And the Seahawks, we took who do we take with the Seahawks? We took Skronsky, we took Van Ness. So you could look at corner here. You could maybe look at no, you're not going to go running back, although Jahmyr Gibbs in that backfield would be great. Again, there's no quarterback they're going to reach for here. So this, see team need inside defensive line. You could go, yeah, that's true. You could go for a guy like Siaka Ika. That's who I'm actually going to go with. I really like him. A guy who a lot of people think is like a Ndamukong Suh type player coming out, or could, turn into that. I like the pick. He's a huge, big interior defensive tackle, a team who hasn't really had a guy since Dunlap, and Dunlap wasn't really an interior guy. And even saying haven't had a guy since Dunlap, that's how you know how bad the interior of that defensive line is. You get Lucas Van Ness and Siaka Ika, and that Seattle team is starting to very much round out. So I like the pick. You have the Raiders here. We went corner. We went Devon Witherspoon for them. Receivers in need. Defensive lines, definitely, maybe a need they could go with. There's some good defensive linemen here. Again, I'm actually interested to see what they have for a team need for the Raiders. Tackle, edge, right? I think edge would be the pick here. For me, it's going to be BJ Ojulari out of LSU. Really, really productive speed rusher, guy who I think would be extremely productive at the next level. I like the pick there. BJ Ojulari to me, just in the run game, is in my opinion super lazy. I honestly like Anudike Ozama a little bit as well, but I think that's where we'll go with Ojulari. I think could offer a lot of production out of LSU. Obviously, Azeez Ojulari was drafted 2 years prior to my New York Giants. So now we have the so obviously we took Bryce Young for them, and then they have another second. Am I wrong? Right? Oh no, they traded up. So so we took Bryce Young. I think receiver might be the option here. Jahmyr Gibbs, that's tough to pass up on. And that's, I think, where I'm going to go. I know they just signed Miles Sanders, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs is actually a guy who's going to need to sit behind for a year. Or not sit behind for a year. A guy who would play very well with another running back, kind of splitting carries. A guy who's super good in there. Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, you look at the definition of changing direction and being able to plant your foot in the ground. This guy is so elite at that. So I like the pick there. We're just going to start to speed up these picks a little bit. We have the Saints. We went with their first round pick. We went, who do we go with for the Saints? We went, I don't know why. They have it formatted differently. So the team needs is by, we went Nolan Smith, right? What would a team need be for the Saints? Inside offensive line. I think this is where I would take O'Cyrus Torrence, John Michael Schmitz. I like O'Cyrus Torrence more. This dude's a freaking bully. Really liked his tape against it was Tennessee. I might be wrong. Might be making that up. I like the pick a lot here though. I think this is a great pick. I think it's a home run pick. I think O'Cyrus Torrence is arguably a first round guy, and to get him kind of close to mid round second, I think is great value. And then that offensive line, I think, is set. So we'll look here. We have the Titans, who interior offensive line could be a need. I think receiver is where I'll go. The question is, which guys are left? Marvin Mims, Rashee Rice. I like Xavier Hutchinson. We have Boutte. I'm actually going to go Boutte out of LSU, a guy who I think is super slept on, a guy who reminds me actually a lot of I don't know, blanking. It reminds me a lot of Jamar Chase, just like kind of a poor man's Jamar Chase. Really, really good after the catch, good vertical threat. So I like the pick there. We have the Jets now with back-to-back picks. In the first round, we took who do we take for the Jets in the first round? Where's the Jets? They don't have a first round. Oh, excuse me, Kalijah Kancey. So we could go offensive line here again. I think Bergeron might be a smart one. I'm actually going to go Tyler Steen here. And then second, tight end. Oh, I just forgot. Tight end. I am completely forgot about this tight end class. Yeah, so this is not going to happen. Let me quickly give you guys that. This will not happen come draft day. Michael Mayer will not be taken at the 44th pick. He'll be a first round guy. Again, I'm just not as high on tight ends. I don't value them as much as other people. So there's definitely a reason why I'm not taking them. I just think, to me, unless you're insane, generational, I just don't think taking a tight end in the first round is worth it. It's kind of similar to running back to me in terms of value of position. So they get Michael Mayer. That's a freaking steal of a pick. So we know how good he is. Super, big dude, safe, good at catching. It's a good tight end class. Now we have the Falcons. They do not need tight end. We know that. Let's see who they took in the first round. We had them go with, who do we have them take? It was Falcons. Excuse me. Where the Falcons are 9, right? Or 8, excuse me. Will Levis. They went quarterback. Receiver could be a pick. Let's see what a team need is for Atlanta. Falcons, a team need where? I don't know why it is formatted like this. Should not use this thing to draft. I mean, the amount of time I've spent clicking. The Falcons, a team need corner. There are some guys here. I think Julius Brents might not be terrible. You get Okuda, though. You have AJ Terrell. Keely Ringo might be a great pick. I'm actually going to go Keely Ringo. I really like Ringo. Or excuse me. I like Ringo as a safety. I think he translates more as a safety. So that's where I'll go with I like Keely Ringo. Ideal build, 6'2", 200 pounds, huge physical guy. He is the worst hips I've seen out of a corner in a long time. Like a guy who one moved, and sends him. Now we have the Packers. We went Jackson Smith and Jig, but I think it'll be offensive line. And I think, we have tight end. Darnell Washington, Musgrave. I think they'll take Kincaid over Darnell Washington. Speaking of that, yeah. So that's where I'll go. I was going to take Washington here for the Patriots, but that's not where I'll go with. I think the Patriots will go receiver. I really like that pick. I think Kincaid, to me, speaking of receivers, reminds me much more of a receiver, kind of a slimmer build, super productive, really good route runner, guy who I think offers a lot of space for improvement. Let's look at, we're on the Patriots. We had them go with Miles Murphy. I think receiver will be the pick, but you look at a guy like Drew Sanders, Trenton Simpson, a guy who's super athletic, but I don't think I think they can wait to take a guy like him. Bergeron. Let's look at a team need just so we can refresh our memories on New England. The Patriots. So team needs inside defensive line. Yeah, we could take a guy like Javon Dexter. Brian Brees is here. I think the value is there for Brian Brees, though. So we'll take him. Brian Brees, a guy who was consensus top 10 pick, beginning of the draft season. But again, a guy who I haven't fallen in love with, the guy who I actually haven't watched a bunch of. But yeah, if you want to, bring a guy into a team that he could be productive in, give him to the Patriots. We have Washington here, tight ends in need. I think Darnell Washington goes out there, although I would have loved to see him go actually to Detroit. But speaking of that, I'm going to give them Luke Musgrave. We're going to have a run on tight ends. We could even go another tight end here. I think we could see 3 guys go. Laporta, I think, would be a good pick. But again, so speaking of those 2 guys, I like Musgrave, big, 6'6", slimmer dude, really good hands. A guy who I liked at Oklahoma State. I think was injured this year. I was just looking at the stats, not a lot of production. Darnell Washington is another offensive lineman and can move pretty well for a guy of his size. I think his 40 was a 4. I think it was in the 4.6s, or maybe it was a 4.8. I'm not sure what it was. I think it was a 4.6. I could be wrong though. So again, that's a pick that I think is fantastic for both of those teams. So we'll just quickly recap that. I would have loved to see Darnell Washington go to Detroit just because they have that kind of just, physical defensive line, and that physical offensive line. I think you add a guy like Darnell Washington, that would be a great pick. But they'll go. Washington steals the pick there. Now we have the Steelers, where again we're gonna look at a team need for the Steelers, and I very much think you could see, tight end being one. Another corner they say is a need, but we had them take DeJuan Jones at the top of the second. Julius Brents is here. Emmanuel Forbes is here. Linebackers in need. I'm going to go Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. A lot of people, I think this guy will fall into the 3rd round. Just because, I think he'll fall into the 2nd round. Or excuse me, the 3rd round, just because the size, like he's just the size to me is a huge concern. Like he's very skinny at 166. So that's the only kind of question mark there for him. Like he's skinny, like not like NFL skinny. Like he's a skinny guy. Like he would be skinny in the real world. So that's kind of the only question mark there. But ball hawking wise, this dude is fantastic. So I like the pick. You want a zone heavy defense, which I think the Steelers are right at. So I like the pick there. Now we'll look to Tampa Bay. We had them go Hendon Hooker in the 1st round. Cornerbacks in need. I think this is where Julius Brents goes off the board. We'll get another corner off the board there. I love Julius Brents. 6'3", really lengthy corner. A guy who, for his size, has very good hips, really good, good route squeeze. Again, it's kind of over the top. He actually gets beaten a little just because of that lateral speed. So that's kind of my only thing with Julius Spence, but I think he's a a good pick, and I like it there. We have the Dolphins now with their obviously they got their first round pick taken away. So this is their first time drafting. Let's see what a team need they have for the Dolphins. I think it'll, if I were to guess, I want to think, probably defensive line, tackles a need, right? Let's look at the interior offensive lineman. We have John Michael Schmitz. I think that's a great pick. I think that's a really high value selection. So that makes a lot of sense for me. So inside offensive line, again, it's an offensive line that's just been very bad. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Seattle picking again. That Russell Wilson trade is just, paying dividends. We had them go. Let's look at who we had for the Seahawks. We took Skoronski, Van Ness, Sika, Ika. Maybe we go receiver here. Maybe we go Tyler Lockett replacement. Let's look what they have as a team need. Whenever in doubt, look at the team needs. Seahawks quarterback. There's no quarterbacks we're going to take. Tight end, right? Yeah, I like Laporta here. I think that's value, especially for a Seattle team that's had a bunch of first round pick or has already had a bunch of selection in the first round. I think that's a good pick. That's where we'll go with Laporta. Really good, kind of a smaller size. It's a little bit of a question mark, but really good hands. That makes sense for me. Scheme friendly, a guy who I think could end up being one of the best tight ends in this class. Now we have Chicago. Corner could be addressed. Some guys I like here. I like Eli Ricks. I don't think that would be a reach. Tyreek Stevenson is here. Again, let's see what a team need for Chicago is. And we took, how many picks we had with them so far? Did they have another first round? No, they didn't. They had a first round. We took Harris Johnson. I think receiver might be the move. Give a guy next to DJ Moore. But the question is, what guys are left? Marvin Mims. Yeah, I think Marvin Mims is a good pick. He's a smaller guy. Again, a part of the smaller guys in this draft class. But he was very good 2 years. Not this, at least from what I saw. I was watching an Oklahoma game when Caleb Williams was there and Spencer Rattler. He's a very good, really good route runner. Offers a bunch. He's a lateral, like a downfield receiver. Can gash guys down the middle. Really good hands. Really good over the shoulder catching. So you got a guy like him. Again, maybe I think Rashee Rice wouldn't have been a bad pick there. But that's where I'll go with. Now we have the Chargers. I'm gonna go Xavier. Let's actually, before I do that, see what a team need is for the Chargers. Where are they? Oh, not the Cowboys. Chargers. Inside defensive line still in need. You could go. Yeah, I think we'll go Javon Dexter. This dude, if any of you have watched sports media, you saw this guy pick up a running back and throw him, like literally pick him up and throw him. This dude's massive. I don't like to throw around the word fat, but he's big. Like he's a big dude. I think it's a good pick as we kind of close getting now 56, where we have the Lions again. We could go corner again. We could go corner again. Did we go corner already? Yeah, right? No. Oh, maybe we didn't. Oh, we didn't. Corner's gonna be the pick. I'm gonna go Eli Ricks. Yeah, DJ Turner's there. Oh no, Tyreek Stevenson's the pick, actually. I love Tyreek Stevenson. Has been very good at Miami. Did it? Yeah, I drafted him, right? Excuse me. Make sure that worked. Tyreek Stevenson. I love it. I love this corner class. Like there's so many guys in it. So that's where I'll go. Go Eli Ricks. We could see now with Jacksonville a linebacker taken. You obviously have Devin Lloyd, who you got last year. Let's see what a team need actually is for the Chargers. Or excuse me, for the Jaguars. The Jaguars, tight end. Unfortunately, yeah, we could go Tucker Kraft. That's where we'll go, out of South Dakota State. Yeah, I think it's a good pick. They have him ranked very low. I like that pick there. Now we have the Giants. We went in the first round, we went with Cedric Tillman. We could address the offensive line. Let's look at another team need here. Giants receiver, inside offensive line. Yeah. Cody Mosh. I think we'll go Joe Tippmann, a guy who I actually think that's high value. You look at a team who was a team who I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Tippmann was taken in that first round. It'd actually be very funny. I think Joe Tippmann might be taken and Cedric Tillman, I think it actually would have made a bunch of sense. I kind of went gut instinct there with Cedric Tillman. Joe Tippmann, I like, though. Really, really powerful out of Wisconsin. I think that's a good pick. Really good value there. Now we have the Cowboys. I mean, they're just tough for me. I think secondary might be a need. Let's look at the safeties. I wouldn't hate Jartavius Martin out of Illinois. It's a tough one. I'm actually going to go Antonio Johnson. I think a guy who offers actually a lot as a corner. A guy who I think was listed as a corner coming into the draft. A guy who was one of the highest touted corners, and now a guy who's fallen a lot. I don't know why. Okay, we're just going to scroll down because we can't actually see who's going. So Antonio Johnson's the pick there. And now we are at Buffalo. I think this is where they finally address the offensive line, and I think Luke Weipler to me is going to be the pick. Another guy who I like. I think that's a high value selection for a Buffalo team that, again, doesn't have a bad offensive line, but an offensive line that could be improved. So I like that pick. We'll narrow it down. Now we have Cincinnati. Again, a team who can never stop getting offensive linemen. They just seem to be awful every year at that. And they weren't bad this year, I guess, but still not good enough. The Bengals. Where? I don't know. I can find. Excuse me. Safety's a need. Corner's also a need. I think it'll be secondary. Let's look. I like Eli Ricks here. I think that's where I might go. I think that is where I'll go. Garrett Williams would be a first round guy, though. I'm going to go DJ Turner. You can match him up with Dax Hill. Super fast. But I'm going to go Eli Ricks. I love Eli Ricks. I think a guy who was arguably one of the best corners in the nation as a freshman at LSU. Then, obviously a little bit of injury problems, transferred to Alabama and just wasn't as good. Just wasn't as, didn't have as much of a season. But I think that's a great pick. A lot of people might think that's a reach. I actually don't think that is. I think Eli Ricks could be a high first round prospect. As we narrow it down, we get to the end here with the last 3 picks. And now on the clock, we have Chicago again. I think this is a tough one. Where would we go with Chicago? Because I'm trying to think here. We could go secondary. We could go running back. Actually. I think you lost David Montgomery. I actually really like Israel Abanikanda here. I love Israel Abanikanda. 20 years old, had 20 touchdowns. Or was it? It might have been. No, it's 20 touchdowns, 1,400 yards per pit at 20 years old. Good speed, really, really good. I think this guy's a 3-down back. But a guy like that, there are some good 3-down backs here. I think you could go Kendre Miller out of TCU. I don't know why he's ranked so low. I don't know why these 2 guys are ranked so low. I have them as in my top 5. So I like that pick for Chicago. I think Israel Abanikanda just offers a lot. Really good, tough runner. That's what I like for Chicago. That's what I like for the city of Chicago. Now the Eagles again. I mean, I don't know why this team has so many goddamn picks. As a Giants fan, I just not a massive fan of it. I think safety immediately. You have inside defensive line, linebacker here. I think we might go linebacker. I think I'm going to go Trenton Simpson. The athleticism to me is too hard to pass up on. I like Drew Sanders. But to me, the athleticism he gives is fantastic. I really like DeMarvion Overshawn. I love Noah Sewell. I don't know how he was a first-round prospect, and he's fallen a lot out of Oregon, but I like that pick. I think Trenton Simpson, sideline-to-sideline guy, can rush the passer. And now the Chiefs to end off the draft. I might go another linebacker here. Let's see just what we had for Kansas City. Where are the Chiefs? Tackles need. I don't love the guys we have. Receiver, safety. I think I'm going to go. I like Jordan Battle here. But also, I'm going to go Jartavius Martin out of Illinois. And that's where we end the draft off. So there it is. Thank you all so much for watching. I like Jartavius Martin. So that's a good pick. A guy who I think is kind of in the tier 2 of safeties. But there we go. 2 rounds. Man, it takes a lot of time. Thank you all so much for watching. Ian McDermott, TheeSportsScoop. Let me know what you think. Again, that I like that. I kind of like drafting before, but there was a lot of quietness during that draft just because of I was drafting the player, so I was kind of thinking of the picks. Let me know what you think of the picks. I actually like that mock draft. I think that was an interesting one. Let me know what you guys think down below. As always, draft live stream 6 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Make sure you guys are there. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on social media. And I'll see you next time.